Great. Thank you. So I'll begin the recording now. Thank you. Let me begin. So I would like to use this opportunity to welcome you to Studihub Digital Academy Web Development Masterclass. And I'm sure for most of you to be your first time attending any of Studihub's masterclasses. So Studihub Digital Academy is an education, it's a technology education company that trains young persons, equips them with premium digital skills to allow them access higher paying jobs. That is what we do at Studihub Digital Academy. So in this class, we'll go over all you need to know to get started as a web developer. And I'm sure you are here in this class because you either want to start your own business, maybe as a freelance web developer and start earning some money there, or you want to start your own technology company, or maybe you want to get a job and get hired as a web developer. So I know a lot of persons who fall into this category, and I'm sure most of you here might fall into one of these categories. So with that in mind, if you're ready, we could begin. So I would first of all introduce myself. My name is Izo Ujili Desmond, and I am a full stack web developer. I have over 5 years experience, cumulative experience in web development and business. So I have been working as a freelance web developer for over 5 years. So I have experience ranging in certain skills ranging from HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, Laravel, and Angular. So that's what makes me really a full stack developer. So now that you have at least some idea of who I am and what I do, what I'm capable of doing, we'll look at what you'll be learning in this class. So in this class, you will be learning, first of all, what web development is, the types of web developers, the technologies needed in web development. You would also learn how much web developers can earn. Is web development really lucrative? Is it something that's worth investing your time into? You'd also learn the tools needed for web development. You will learn how to write HTML and how to write CSS. Also, you will be building your own static web page as a project toward the end of this class. And if for those who stay to the end of the class, I will be giving them a very special offer for our 6 week long master web development class. So, with that in mind, I think we can begin. So, let's start with the first one. What is web development? So, what is web development? Web development is simply the process of building a website or a web application that you would have to put on the internet. That's how simple it is. It's just that simple. Building a website or web application that you put on the internet. Now the next question is, who then is a web developer? So with the definition of of what web development is, we can understand that a web developer is somebody who builds websites or web applications with his knowledge or her knowledge of web technologies. We will talk a lot about web technologies as we progress. But for now, we should have in mind that modern websites that we see are very, very different from the ones we used to see back then in, let me say, times like 2002, 2005, 2006, even down to as far back as 2009. Modern websites are totally different because a lot of things have changed. A lot of new things have been added. Also, a lot of things have been removed. As a result of these changes, specializations have come into web development. And these specializations have brought about different types of developers. So we now have different types of web developers. So we have three major types. We have the front end developer, we have the back end developer, and we have the full stack developer. So let's continue. So these specializations have brought about different kinds of web developers now. So we now have a front-end developer, we have a back-end developer, and we have a full-stack developer. So we'll be talking about each of these in detail, and we'll begin with the front-end developer. But before we talk about who a front-end developer is, there's something that is really important that you have to take note of. The modern websites that we visit today are modern websites and modern web applications that we use today are broken down into three parts. So I think people are still trying to come in, and I'm getting so many notifications. Mariam, please try as much as possible to help me out with that. Okay, so modern applications now have three parts. We have the user interface part, we have the business logic, and we have the databases. Modern web applications are divided into these three parts. The user interface is the part we see and we interact with. So when you visit a website like facebook.com that you visit, you click on a button. Maybe after clicking on the button, you also get, you fill a form, you make a comment. You are interacting with the website directly. That part you interact with is the user interface. That's what gives you that experience, that feeling, that feeling of happiness when you interact with the website. Then we have the business logic. Now, the business logic includes code that makes a business unique or makes a web application unique in business side of things. So each code for business logic is usually specific for a particular business. So for instance, let me explain. If you have Facebook, for example, the business logic for Facebook would be the code that is required to help you find your friends on Facebook. That code is not something that you see and you can directly interact with. It's something that is stored somewhere. It's usually stored on the server. It's never delivered to the user directly. So that's the business logic. Then another aspect is databases. So the database aspect of the website is how the data generated by the user is managed. Any data that the user, maybe if you go to a website, you provide your name, your email address, and some other details. How is that data managed? It would be terrible if the data that when you visit the website, each time you visit the website, you'll be asked each time to, let me say, re-register. Each time you visit Facebook, they'll ask you to register. You have to provide your name, your email address, your phone number every single time just to use Facebook. It would be terrible. So that's another aspect, how to manage data that is provided by the user. So with that in mind, let's now talk about front-end, who a front-end developer is. A front-end developer is someone who builds user interfaces. He writes the code that the user would interact with. That is the person responsible for building what you see. When you visit a website and the website is beautiful, what you are seeing and you are interacting with is built by a front-end developer. So we're going to look at a diagram. This diagram explains some technicalities behind front-end development and front-end side code. So if you look at this diagram, you would notice that this is the user and this is the server. Now, the user here would request for a website from the server, and this server would deliver a copy of the website code to the user. This is the user he's trying to visit the website through his web browser. The code that is delivered to him will be translated by the web browser to make that beautiful website that he is seeing. That code is referred to as the front-end code. That's the code that a front-end developer would write or a front-end developer would have to create. So that now brings us to the question. Now, who then is a back-end developer? Because we also mentioned back-end development there. So who then is a back-end developer? Now, a back-end developer is the person who will write code that would run here. So let's look at this. Who is a backend developer? A backend developer is somebody who writes server-side code. That is code that would run on a server. That is, he's the person responsible for, he or she is the person responsible for writing the business logic. He's the person who also creates a connection between the front-end code and the database. If you are following and you are not lost or something is not confusing, please respond. Let me know whether I should go over anything again. Feel free to unmute your mic so I know what to go over again. Is there anything that, or do I proceed?
Come again, backend.
Okay. Thank you very much. So a backend developer is somebody, from the diagram, you saw that a website is stored on a server. So a backend developer is the person who writes code that would be stored here, that would run here. The code you would never, you don't, as a user, you would not actually interact with the code directly. When you visit a website, don't worry, things will get clearer as when we start the practical session though. But when you visit a website, a copy of that website is delivered to you on your computer. That's the reason why you are able to interact with that website. So if I go to my browser and I type in facebook.com, what happens is that a copy of facebook.com is sent to my computer. That is why I can use it. So the only thing is that the website has two parts. It has the front end part, it has the back end part. Now, the back end part is the business logic. The business logic is never delivered to the user, it is only stored and run on the server. And the business logic is what the backend developer writes. Usually is what the backend developer writes. So he writes code that would run on a computer server. So let us proceed. That's what backend developer does. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is that be run on the server. He works on the business logic. Those are the important things that you need to remember. He works on code that will be run on the server. He works on the business logic. And he also is responsible for creating a connection in between the website and the database. With that in mind, we need to know what a server is. I know a lot of you have been hearing about the word server. A server is simply a computer, a special kind of computer that can store, it can run, it can process information. Anything you give to it, and you can run programs, you can run different softwares on a server. The only difference is that it's a special kind of computer. It has more power than your average computer, and it is stored somewhere else. So now that you have an idea of what a server is, there's something else that a lot of persons have always been confusing with a server, which is the cloud. When you say what is the cloud? Cloud is just simply different servers connected, can be referred to as the cloud. Cloud systems are usually owned by big corporations. So companies like Microsoft, Oracle, Google, they have what they call cloud farms. That's houses that contains thousands and thousands, hundreds and thousands of servers. And all of these servers are connected to the internet. So what you can do is that you can pay to access a space or use the processing power or the computing power of one of these servers. That is the new development now that a lot of persons are talking about moving things to the cloud. They're always wanting to move the application to the cloud. So what happens is that you're trying to move the application from the server that they have to a server that belongs to maybe one of these big corporations. That is what the cloud really. That's what the cloud really is. Yeah. So like you've seen before, there's an image that explains that. Just it's a cartoonistic image that explains what the difference between a front-end developer and a back-end developer. So this is the user, and the front-end developer or front-end part of a website is the beautiful thing that you see, the beautiful aspect of the website that you see. While the backend is the thing that makes it function, the real thing that makes it, the business logic, the thing that makes it work. So this creature cannot swim. I don't even know why I use this picture, but this creature cannot swim without this tail. So let's just look at something else. So this is another image that explains it. The front end is the user, the part that the user really sees and appreciates and interacts with. But the part that makes this front end work or come out like this is the back end. That just gives you this just gives you an idea of the difference between front end and back end code. I hope this is clear to some extent. This, if it's clear, drop a comment so I know that I can progress. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's proceed. So now let's look at who a full stack developer is. Now we have an idea of who a front end developer is and who a back end developer is. A full stack developer this time around is somebody who has an overlap of these two skills. So it's more like he knows front end, he knows back end. He's a combination of the two, not necessarily a combination, but he has the skills for those two, for the two. So what that means is that he can build user interfaces, he can write backend code, that's business logic, he can manage databases, and most times he's even knowledgeable in cyber security. So that's who a front end, a full stack developer is. So it's something like this. He has knowledge of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Java, SQL, Ruby, Python, and so many other backend languages and frameworks. So he might have knowledge of all of this, or maybe some of these, and he has put them to practice. That's who a full stack developer is. But the truth is, there are so many things to learn. Like I said earlier, web technologies, a lot of things have changed. In fact, as we speak, people are developing new web technologies that are going to make the ones that we are using today obsolete. So there are so many things to learn, so many. But there's one thing I have learned from my years of experience, that employers, even persons who you are going to work with, persons who you are just going to work with as a freelancer, they require persons who have a special kind of skill set. That is a T-shaped skill set. T-shaped, like this diagram here, this T-shaped diagram shows or depicts the way a person's skill is spread out. Do you have your skills spread out evenly, or do you have your skills spread out in a T shape? So what I mean is, somebody who has a T-shaped skill set can have skill in design, can have skill maybe in other programming languages, can have skill in database management and all that. But the person would have one core skill that he focuses his attention, he really goes deep, and he understands this thing to the point that he's so good at it that anybody who comes to him, or people always come to him to find solutions to that particular skill. Yet, if he's given any project any project that has to do with any other skill, he's also able to manage and handle it. These kind of persons are real team players, because they they are not the kinds of they're not the kind of person that will tell you, oh, I have a problem. This is my limitation. I don't go beyond this. I cannot handle this project because this is not my area. People are usually looking, or employers are always seeking persons who have T-shaped skill sets. So the advice we always give is always develop yourself to have a T-shaped skill set. So if you're focusing on one thing, focus on it to the point where you get so good at it. But do not neglect other skills. So let's proceed from here. So now we're going to talk about the important aspect of this class. How much can a developer actually earn? How much can a developer earn? So I can actually just tell you how much I know people earn directly, but that would just spoil the fun. So I went ahead and I got statistics from credible sources such as glassdoor.com and mysalaryscale.com. So let me just take water. Sorry. So let's look at them. So this is a statistic from glassdoor.com. If you know glassdoor.com very well, you know that that's a place where people go to find jobs. Yes. So glassdoor.com created a survey and asked the question, how much is the salary of a junior software developer? So a junior web developer, for instance, how much is your salary? So on average, they found out that salary is about 2.4 million naira in Nigeria. That is around 200,000 naira per month. That might not seem like a very high amount, but it is something. It's something substantial. So let's look at the second statistic for mysalaryscale.com. So 30 employees provided their salaries for entry-level developers, and the average turned out to be 103,000 naira for an entry-level developer. Please, can you mute your mic? Who is listening? Please, can you mute your mic? Okay, so mysalaryscale.com found out that on average in Nigeria, an average entry level developer would earn around 103,000 naira, and a web developer intern can earn as high as 76,000 naira per month. So this might not seem like a lot. I also know an entry level developer who earns as high as 150,000 naira working for a microfinance bank. Now, the thing that makes all this really significant is not about the amount, though. It's what makes it really significant is the time frame, the time frame required to learn web development. Web development is a skill that you can learn and master within a year if you are dedicated to that. You can even learn it and master it within 6 months and get a job. Start earning as high as 100,000 naira to 300,000 naira as an entry level developer. Sorry about that. I'm having so as an entry level developer. So I also went ahead to get you a screenshot of what a developer what is required to work as a front-end developer. So I got this from glassdoor.com, where a company called Softcom is requesting for a front-end developer. Now this is the job post. I'm just going to read it out the way it is. We are looking for a front-end developer to become an integral part of our team. In addition to building and maintaining our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript architecture, he or she must be able to work in a fast-paced environment while solving complex problems on the fly, must have high bandwidth for learning, and exhibit a drive for personal growth. So I'm just going to stop there. So I'm going to walk backwards. Now, a front-end developer is somebody, or a developer, a web developer is somebody who should have a desire for personal growth. Like I mentioned, technologies change. So you need to have a desire for personal growth. You need to keep on learning. And I know all of you that are here have a desire for personal growth. That's the reason why you are here and you want to learn web development. Great choice. So now it mentions some technology that you need to work with as a front-end developer, which are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are the core technologies that you need to get a job as a front-end developer. There are other extra things that you need to learn that will be taught in our class. But for now, we are just going to look at HTML and CSS. So this is the second part of the job posts, and it talks about HTML and CSS and JavaScript again. You can read it in detail when I send you the recording of the entire class. But for now, just to respect your time, I'm not going to read this. Let's proceed. So proceeding to the next part, we'll talk about what a website is. So what is a website? A website, simply put, is a collection of related web pages. It's a collection of related web pages. Now, when you visit or when you use something like Microsoft Word, you have a page that has been formatted and designed. So when you have let me use a PDF as an example. A PDF can contain different pages. Now, those pages, when they come together and they are connected together, they form a particular document. They might form a book, or they might just form a PDF document. Same thing applies for a web page. So a web page is a collection of, a website is just a collection of related web pages. So with that in mind, sorry, let me just take water. Sorry, my throat is actually getting dry, so I have to take water at some point in time. Technologies. We've talked about web technologies. Are you guys following? Can you hear me? I need some response. Are you following?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's talk about web technologies. So what are web technologies? Web technologies are the technologies you need to build a website. There are several web technologies that are available. And like I mentioned before, there are new technologies that are currently being built that very soon they are going to make the ones that we are learning obsolete. But not to worry, because there are three core technologies that with time will not fade away. Will not fade away in a very long time unless they restructure and rebuild the entire framework of the World Wide Web. So these technologies are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the core web technologies that you need to learn to start web development. Like we mentioned before, and you saw, the job requirements for somebody who wants to get a front-end developer job, majorly you just need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and some other tools. You just need to learn how to use some special tools. That's all you need. So these are other web technologies. We have PHP, we have Ruby, we have Python, we have C Sharp, we have Java, we have SQL, we have Angular, we have React, there are so many. They keep coming up. There are just so many. But we are going to be talking about these core technologies because every other technology is usually an adaptation to these ones, except PHP and Python, though these are separate languages. PHP, Python, H, and those other backend languages. These are separate languages. So let's get to it. So what tools do you need to start building your own website today? You need two tools only. You need an up-to-date web browser and a code editor. Now, a code editor is a piece of software that allows you to write and edit code. Before, people who wrote code, they wrote their code using what they call a text editor, a simple text editor, something like text. Let me try and show you something. When you try to create a text document, I hope you guys are familiar with text documents here. Is anybody familiar with text documents? Have you used text document maybe just to write a note or something?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah? To write a note. Okay, cool. So,
yes.
Okay, cool. So before
Notepad.
people use
Notepad.
Yes, Notepad. Thank you very much. So people use text editors, plain text editors to write code. That's how difficult it used to be back then. In fact, before even text editors, people used to use foolscap, foolscap paper. Yes, they write their code on foolscap paper before they have access to computers, and a lot of things have improved. Life has become really easy nowadays. Sha. So what you need now is just an up-to-date web browser and a code editor. A code editor is usually advanced. And now these are some web browsers that you are familiar with. We have Safari, we have Microsoft, we have Google Chrome, we have Microsoft Edge, we have Mozilla Firefox, and we have Opera Mini. Maybe some persons call it Opera Mini. But anyhow, so you are familiar with these 5 web browsers. These are the 5 major web browsers that we see around today. And you need a code editor. So these are code editors that are available. Wow, I didn't correct this. So these are code editors that are available for you to download today. These are the ones I personally recommend. There are so many code editors out there, but these are the ones I personally recommend. We have Visual Studio Code. We have Atom. This is Atom. Sorry, I made a mistake here, and I didn't get to correct it. We have Brackets. So these 3, you can install them, but I would recommend that you install Visual Studio Code because that's what we are going to use. If you have not already installed Visual Studio Code, because we've been sending emails, we've been sending messages for you to have Visual Studio Code installed before this class. So I hope you have it installed already. So if you have that installed, we're just going to proceed. Now we are going to talk about HTML. What is HTML? I know many of you might have heard about HTML before, but we're going to talk about it in real detail. Now, this guy here is the founder of HTML. His name is Tim Berners-Lee. He practically founded the web, and he founded the web by combining 2 technologies that were existing at that time, and he created the World Wide Web. It never existed. In fact, everything that we see on the World Wide Web, not on the internet, mind you, on the World Wide Web, is as a result of this man's ingenuity. So everything that we see on the World Wide Web today is as a result of this guy. So he founded the web and he created a markup language called HTML. Before, HTML did not exist. In fact, there was a competition between, I'm just giving you a brief history about HTML. There was a competition between HTML and another markup language called XML. But many persons adopted HTML quickly before they adopted XML. That's the reason why HTML became the standard for the web today. So let us proceed. So HTML, what is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a standard markup language for documents to be displayed in a web browser. If you do not know what a markup language is, a markup language simply is a language that tells a computer how it should display text or display content of a document. Should the document be in a straight line? Should the document have bullet points? Maybe when it gets to a point, how should it display it? That's what a markup language is. But this time around, this markup language is for only the web browser. So HTML is the markup language, the standard markup language that is used to display, used to structure documents that will be displayed on a web browser. Now, HTML is written in an HTML document. And just like any other document, it has a file extension of .html. If you're familiar with file extensions, you have music file extension of .mp3, we have movie file extension of .mp4. So if you're creating a document and you're saving the document, you have to save the document with .html for that document to turn into an HTML document, sorry. So this is the syntax for HTML. It has a unique syntax. Now, this syntax is, how do I make it easy? Okay, this syntax is actually simple because first of all, you need to understand that the computers read from left to right. So with that in mind, that the computers read from left to right, we have HTML tag and we have a closing HTML tag, and the contents of the HTML of the document that you want to format would go in the middle of each tag. So usually HTML has an opening tag and a closing tag. I don't know whether this video is blocking. It usually has an opening tag and a closing tag. So with that in mind, you need to have in mind that HTML has an opening tag and a closing tag. And this / is the only differentiator between an opening HTML tag and a closing HTML tag. So when you start your HTML document, you write the tag here and you close it using the /. So let us proceed. So HTML, in summary, HTML gives instruction to the web browser on how it should display web pages or how web pages are to be rendered. Yeah, that's what it does. So we are going to briefly work on a project. Excuse me. Yes, we are going to briefly work on a project, a demo, to see how HTML renders, how HTML formats documents for the web browser. So knowing that the HTML tag has an opening tag and a closing tag, and it's very easy to read because you can use intuition to figure out what a tag does. Like for instance, this P tag here stands for paragraph. So it has an opening tag of P and a closing tag of /P. So if you want to put anything, want to make anything a paragraph, you would have to place this opening tag at the beginning of that sentence and place the closing tag at the end of the sentence. So anything that is in between the closing and opening tag becomes a paragraph. Same thing with the bold tag. The bold tag is the B tag, and you place something here and place something in between and it becomes bold. Same thing with the italic. Then this HTML tag tells the web browser, when the browser reads from left to right and it hits this tag, it tells the browser that, hey, what you are looking at here is the start of an HTML document. This is the start of an HTML document. So it's going to treat everything within this HTML tag as an HTML document. So this body tag now, everything that comes in between this body tag is what is going to be displayed on a web browser. It's what's going to be visible to you, displayed on the web browser. Then the title tag is what's going to be displayed as the title of the web page. All this is going to be easy to understand when we test it out in the demo. So the div tag is a wrapper tag. So it just wraps elements that are going to be displayed on web browser. So we have this sentence. We have this first sentence here. We have boy. The boy is wrapped in a H1 tag. If you use Microsoft Word, I like using Microsoft Word as an example. If you use Microsoft Word and you are trying to make a header, we have different kinds of headers. We have heading 1, and we have heading 2, and we have title. When you highlight a document, we have heading 1, we have heading 2. Heading 1 is usually bigger than heading 2. So do you guys understand that, or do I need to open Microsoft Word to show you what I mean? Because I'm willing to do that.
We understand. I understand.
Crystal
Okay, great.
clear.
So
Yeah, we are getting it.
Okay, cool. So heading 1 and heading 2. So heading 1 in web browsers, heading 1 or the heading tag has up to 5 or 6 tags. So they are differentiated by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. Each of these get progressively smaller. The same way in your Microsoft Word, we have heading 1 and heading 2, and heading 1 is bigger than heading 2. Don't worry, it's going to be easy to see. Now we have this paragraph tag and we have this bold tag here. So what this does would be that it's going to start a new paragraph, make this boy a new paragraph, and it's going to, while this is going to make this boy in italic form. But it's not going to be on the same line with this because this is on a paragraph of its own. Now this is going to make this boy on a paragraph of its own too. While this is going to bring this is Study of Digital Academy down to any paragraph of its own. If you notice here, this 1, 2, 3, 4 are not wrapped in any tags. They are just on their own. I did this intentionally to make you see that if you do not format content that is going to be displayed on the web page, the browser will display it the way it wants to display it in its default form. So this is what the result looks like. So if you notice heading 1 here, heading 1 here is bold, like we saw it here. H1, boy, is now in bold form. So this is the heading. You notice it's bigger and bolder. So this is just a bold tag, while this is italic, is in italic form. And this is Study of Digital Academy is on a new line, while here it's not on a new line because you have specified that the paragraph should put this Study of Digital Academy in a new paragraph. It has done that here. So Study of Digital 1, 2, 3, 4. Normally they are nexted here, but if you look at the browser is just going to display every on one continuous line. Is that clear? I hope this has given you an idea on how HTML works. I need
Yes.
some rest. Okay. Thank you very much. So
Yes.
okay, now let's get into the demo. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen to get into the demo. So let me take you to my code editor. This way I can share my entire screen. So I'm just going to temporarily share my entire screen. So in my documents, I have created a folder called Project Web Dev. And inside of this folder, I have 2 files. So I'll just create a new file here just to show you quickly how HTML works. And I'll name this file new.html. Remember, HTML files, okay, I'm not going to name it new.html. I'm just going to name it new because it's a text file. So remember, HTML files end with the file extension .html. But this is a text document now. And for me to convert this text document into an HTML document, I would have to save it again, but I'll save it as a different kind of file. So I'll come here and I'll save it and I'll add the file extension .html. And immediately as I do that, you would notice that this web browser icon or Google Chrome icon has appeared in front of the new file I just created with a .html extension. This shows that by default, the software that is available to open this file is the web browser. So for me to edit this web document now, I would use my code editor. So if you install Visual Studio Code properly, you would see this. This will pop up. But if that doesn't pop up, it's still all right because you can open your Visual Studio Code and you can open a file or a folder. So I'm just going to open a file directly, and I'm going to look for the file in my documents. I'm going to look for Project Web Dev, and this is the new file, and I'm going to open it here. So as you can see, the file is empty. So I'm going to HTML. This is not the proper way to write HTML or start any HTML document, but I'm just going to do it. So I'm going to. So if you have your Visual Studio Code, you can try and code along with me. If you have any issue, I would be willing to assist you. So these are the three these are the three I have saved this doc. I will now do is that I will double tap on this to open it in a web browser. So now you notice that this year, first Desmond, I think I should open it side by side so it will be easier.
Okay.
Can you see it? Can you see
Yeah.
Can you see this and this? So we have tag here, the bold. What has happened is that it has produced, I have written text without a format. This text here is without formats, without any formats. It's just random text, no formatting. You would notice that immediately the text is combined with the last decimal on top. The text combined with the last decimal on top. But if I add formatting to it, let's say I want this to be in its own paragraph, I'll add a p tag and I'll close it with a p tag here. So opening the p tag and closing the p tag, I'll save and I'll refresh. And you notice that it goes on a paragraph of its own. So there are so many tags in HTML, so many few when we get to the final project that we are working on. So let's get back to the slide. I think this is clear. You've seen how you can quickly write HTML and the browser understands how you are formatting text. It's really simple, how you are formatting text and how it should render it because it's obeying instructions that you are giving to it. So you are telling the browser, I want this entire thing to be in a paragraph of its own. It does that for you. I want this thing to be a header, but it should be the size of heading 1. So it does that for you. I want this to be size of heading 2. It does that. Just that's really, really simple. So I'm going to close this and close this. Also close this. Then I'm going to stop sharing so I can share it properly, share my screen properly. I hope that is. We're now going to talk about, let it load up. Okay, cool. So now that it has loaded up, we're going to talk about CSS. CSS is the second part of the second core web technology that you need to know. So I am pretty sure that you have an understanding of how HTML works. HTML is easy to write. It is really, really easy. All you need to do is you need to know how to write it and know the codes and the tags to use in writing HTML. CSS will be the core thing that we focus on, CSS and JavaScript, because this is where it really gets tricky. So what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's a language that is used to describe the style of an HTML document. So made mention of the word style. Let me just explain. So HTML is like the skeleton, while CSS has features and characteristics to that page, or it makes it beautiful. Color, the different types of fonts that you want, unique kind of behavior. That's what CSS does. So it has the HTML that we saw. Look anything like a website. Beautiful. Now let us look at the CSS syntax. This is the simple CSS syntax. It's really simple to use and simple to understand. So we have a selector, we have a property, and we have a value. Sorry, let me take what. Okay, and we have a value. The syntax is it's really simple. So we'll be explaining each of them in detail. Now let's look at the selector. The selector, what it basically does is just it selects HTML, selects the HTML tag that you want to add a style to. So if you want to style, let's say a P tag, you would write the P tag here. Then the next thing you would do would be to write the property that you want to style. So the property of that element that you want to style, maybe a property could be something like the size, the position, the padding, the color, a lot of things. There are different properties, just the same way a person can have different properties, like a person can have his own height, he can have his own weight and stuff like that. Elements on the page can have their own unique properties that you can change. So you have to specify the property that you want, the property of that element that you want to change. Then you specify the value of that property. So each property has its own set of values that you need to specify. So you cannot specify a value that does not exist for that property. So if you select the property of color, you should expect a value of something like red or blue or green or purple. Those are colors. So you cannot specify a property of color and specify something like 2px, that's 2 pixels. That's a property for size or weight or something. So it will definitely not work. So this is an example of how you can write CSS. So I think we'd also do a quick demo on how you would see this in action, how CSS works. So this is the CSS tag we have written for an HTML document to start the P tag in that HTML document. So we first of all select the P here. We specify the property that I want to change. That is the color property. And we specify that the property should be red. So the P tag is selected. The color property is what we want to change. And we specify that it should be red. So this is what is going to output in the web browser. So let's do a quick demo. Let's look at it. Let's see how this works. So let's see how this works before you build your first static website. Let's look at this real time. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so that's going to open this same folder, open this file, open it with code. I'm going to take it to this edge, take it to web browser. Just going to open a new tab here, nothing there. Then we're going to write CSS. Now, in order to write CSS, you must follow the structure of HTML. Remember, I said that this is not the actual way we write HTML, but the browser is going to forgive us because it's going to add the missing elements into this page. That's the reason why it's even displaying. Initially, it's not going to, before it's not going to display. So new, so I'm going to just add the HTML boilerplate here. And I'm going to change this. Let's remove all of this. Place it in here. Yes, I'm going to save. So saving this, I'm going to go back here and open this up on Chrome. So you notice that nothing changes here. Nothing changes here. This is where you are going to write your CSS. The CSS goes into the heading of the web page. So you start your CSS by writing style using a style tag. using a style tag. So inside of this style tag, that is where you begin to write your CSS. So let us assume that I want to change this heading. This heading, I want to make this heading green in color. From the syntax,
Okay, the bold guy. Okay.
okay. So the syntax for for CSS tells us that we first of all need a selector. I'm repeating it for emphasis, just to ensure that everybody gets it. You need a selector, you need curly braces. Sorry, you need curly braces. Then you need a property. Then you need a value. That's all. That's all you need. So with that in mind, we are going to select that we want to change this Desmond, this H1 here, this Desmond to green. So we start by doing H1. That's the first thing we need to do. Then our curly braces. Then the property of Desmond I want to change is the color. So I'm going to spell it as color. So this is the proper way they've set out for you to spell color in HTML. This format of color. So I'll now specify the color I want, so which is green. So I say green, then I close it with my semicolon. Then I save. If I refresh, you notice here immediately turns green. You can try that. It's that simple. So I can also add more properties to it. So I can add more properties to it. I can next it and add more properties to it. So I can add property like font size. Font size is the size of this font. I can increase the font size to something like 200 pixels. I want it to be as large as 200 pixels, and I save it, then I refresh. And now it has become really large, too large. So let me make it 70 pixels and save and refresh. So now it has reduced. So you can see that we can change the way any elements on a HTML and an HTML document is styled. We can change it using CSS. We can add beauty to a website using CSS, using this very simple syntax. So the selectors that we are seeing here, the selector that we use here is just the HTML tag. We have different selectors that we can use. We have a class selector also. So we can use something, we can specify a class here. Let's call this class new. So instead of the tag, the HTML tag, I'm going to use the selector. So the selector will be something like dot new. And let me change this color to red. So dot new, if I now save it as red, it still affects and it changes it to red. So with that in mind, let us go back to our slide and let's see what we are going to be working on. So we're going to be building, you are going to be building your first static website. So this is the point where I expect that you have your laptops ready and you have turned on Visual Studio Code, because this is going to be a practical session where to see your results also. So if you do not have your system turned on, please turn it on. Don't have Visual Studio Code booted up, please boot it. This is the time. So these are some of the tags that we're going to be using in the project. We have the body tag, we have the section tag, we have the div tag, we have H1, we have italic. We might not use some of these, we might use some of these. So it depends as the project progresses. Then if you want to download the project files, please, you can download them here. So this is available for persons who are not here and also persons who are not able to code along with us. You can also download the project files and look at them. So I would advise that everybody follows along. So let us proceed. This would be the site that we'll be building. You're going to replace this image of this beautiful lady here with your own beautiful image. And you're going to replace this name here with your own name. And you're going to replace this text here with your own small bio. Technically, you're building your own portfolio page or your own a web page that talks about you. So maybe if you want to, you can host it somewhere, maybe on GitHub. If you are interested, would host it somewhere on GitHub. So anybody or your friends can see it and say, this is the first web page I have built. And this is me, this is what I'm building. Now let's get right into it. I'm going to end this slide share. And we're going to be using our Visual Studio Code directly. Let me stop sharing. Okay. Let's get into code. Oh, someone said they can't see my screen. I'm just seeing this now. How come? Are you able to see my screen?
No,
I can't see.
I can't
Can
see
you
your
see my
screen.
screen?
No. It's blank.
Okay, don't worry. Okay. But you can see, can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. I'm going to reshare my screen. Just hold on. So do you have your code editors open?
Yes.
Okay. So let me share my screen again. Okay, I'm sure you can see my screen now. Can you?
Not yet.
Class.
Can you see my screen now?
No, it's
Can you see my
just
screen
showing
now?
you started screen sharing. It's just loading. It's not showing yet.
Okay, let me try again. Can you see it now?
What are you trying to do?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody see it now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So I am in Visual Studio Code now. I have installed and I have opened Visual Studio Code. If you open Visual Studio Code without any file being opened, this is what it looks like. So do you have yours opened? Do you have yours opened? Okay, we're just going to progress because of time. So in your Visual Studio Code, the first thing you do is you can open an existing folder or you create a new file, one of the two. So for me, I'm going to open an existing folder. So I'm just going to open a folder here. I'm going to search for the folder, which is Project Web Dev. I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code. So I would advise that you create a new, let me delete these two files we created initially. I would advise that you create a new folder on your computer and maybe the folder is empty. You just create a new folder, a completely new folder, nothing is inside. and you name the folder My Project. The name doesn't really matter though, but you create a new folder just to keep things neat. Then you open Visual Studio Code. You come here and you click on Open Folder. Then you search for that folder you created, where you created it, and you open it here. So it's going to open here. If there are files inside of that folder, they will show and they will display in this corner. If there are no files, it will just be empty. Then you can create a new file inside of Visual Studio Code using this. So I'm going to create a new file and start afresh. For the persons who, for some persons who have attended our classes before or have seen this before, you are familiar with this. I'm going to create a totally new file. So I'm just going to call this file project. You can name any file project. So this is a code editor. Code editors give you a lot of power to do a lot of things while writing code. So it's just like a texted, just like Notepad, but with with superpowers. Let me put it that way. So we have project.html. So once I do that and I save, notice this angle brackets that appear here. These angle brackets that appear tell us that this is an HTML document. The code editor has recognized it as an HTML document, and it's going to give us suggestions for this document as an HTML document. So this, can you see this image? Can everybody see this image? Can everybody see this image? Please, I need responses.
Yes.
Okay. This is the image we are going to be working on. So have this image at the back of your mind. Let me just put it by the side if possible. Put it by the side. Okay. So that's the image we are going to be working with. So to start your HTML document, we have what we refer to as HTML boilerplate. That's code that you have to repeat every single time. So this is HTML5 boilerplate. Document.html, HTML language en. That this tells you that this is the start of an HTML document, and the language you're going to be writing is English. This is the head section of the HTML document. This anything that goes here is never displayed on the web page, but describes or provides information, additional information about that web page. While everything that is going to be displayed on the web page goes with tags are really important. So the body tag here, and the body tag, open and closing tag. So everything that we're going to be doing will be inside of the body tag and inside of the head tag. So these are the two major tags. If you look at them well, you see that these are the two major tags. We have the head tag, and we have the body tag, opening and closing head, opening and closing body. All of them are wrapped inside a single HTML tag. So there's always nesting. Nesting is when something is inside of the other and it just continues like that. So to begin this, we notice that here there is a navigation bar. There is a tag in HTML5 called nav tag. I hope you can see me. I don't know what's. Can you see my code editor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay, no problem. So there's a tag called the navigation tag, nav tag. It's a semantic tag. What semantic means is, or basically what it means, it just helps you visually understand what that tag does, or what the tag is supposed to do. And for SEO purposes, it's easy for search engines to identify areas or parts of your HTML document. So the navigation tag, inside of the navigation tag, I'm going to use the navigation tag to create this blue navigation bar on top. So we have two things inside of the navigation tag. We have the profile and we have the say hi. So the profile, I'm going to use a tag called the span tag. So we have the span tag and I'm going to place the profile inside of it. So we have profile.me. Who is following? Who is trying to follow along? Nobody? So the next tag that we have
I'm
is
following.
this here. This tag is okay. You are. That's great.
Yes.
So have you been able to do this?
Hello,
I'm
sorry,
following.
I just came in now.
Okay.
Hello,
I can hear you.
I said I just
Okay,
came
you
in.
just
I'm just
like you're just joining. Are you just joining the class
I'm
now?
just doing. Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
Um.
I was busy doing something else.
No problem. No problem. What you just do is you progress. Don't worry. You get a recording of the class so you can catch up on what you missed.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So inside of the navigation, inside of this navigation tag or this nav tag, I call it navigation tag. Instead of this nav tag, we have two things. We have the profile.net and we have the say hi. This say hi is a button. It can be a button and it can also be a link. But I'm going to make it a link. So a link is usually made with an A tag or an anchor tag. So I'm going to provide an anchor tag there and I'm going to say the content of the anchor tag is say hi. Feel free to ask questions so that you get you get to understand what I am doing. So now I am done with the navigation. This entire area, I am done with it. If I save this document and I go back to my editor and I open my project, you can see this here. You can see this here. This doesn't look anything like the image that we are seeing. It doesn't look like the image at all. It's it's looking totally different. So okay, it's looking totally different. Okay, so I just realized that. So let me continue. So that's the navigation. The next thing that we would be looking at would be sorry, I think Zoom. Zoom. So the next tag we're going to be looking at will be main, the main tag. Now the main tag is only used once in a document. So it declares the main content or where the main content of a document is going to begin. Now inside of this main tag, we have different parts. I don't understand why. Okay, I was wondering. I don't understand why it wasn't behaving properly. So inside of this main tag, we have the image of the girl, which is going to be your profile picture. We have the name of the girl. We have an underline, and we have text contents that describes who the girl is. And if you notice also, if you notice, you will see that there is it's somewhat like a gray background around it, different from the white background here. So there is what I refer to as the wrapper. That's where we'll be using the div tag. We have a wrapper that surrounds everything or includes everything, like a container that includes everything inside of here. So remember, we have a container. So we have a container. We are going to use the main tag as that container. Everything is inside of that main tag. And we have the image. So we would use the div tag to provide the image just to explain or to make you see how powerful CSS is. We're going to give it a class of image. Remember, when you give something a class, you can call it using a class. Then after the image, we have the name. We're going to use H1 for the name. And we're going to give the name Aurora. Then after that, we have another tag called the horizontal rule tag. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm always checking, just to ensure, because everything is really erratic here. So H1 horizontal row, then we have a paragraph. We have a paragraph, and I'm just going to generate random text using lorem ipsum generator. So we're going to generate random text here using lorem. So this is the random text. Now you're going to replace this random text in your own side. You're going to replace it with a description of yourself. If I save this now and I go back to the web browser and I refresh, this is what it looks like. It doesn't look anything, just plain HTML. And this is just going to show you how CSS can totally transform a website. So I think we have written out everything. So we have the image, we have the horizontal row, we have the paragraph. Now let's go and write some CSS. So we write CSS inside of the head tag. Take some water. So write CSS inside of the head tag, and we begin our CSS with a style tag. This declares or tells the browser from this point on, everything that you are seeing inside of here is just CSS. It's CSS. So the first thing that we want to style would be to remove everything from the page. So we're going to remove every default style from the page, like padding. No, let me not do that. Let me just do that directly from the body tag, the body and HTML tag. So we have body, and that's the tag that we're picking out is the body tag here. I want to style the body tag here. What do I want to do? I want to remove a space that will be created around that tag. I think you guys should let's make that space. Let's allow that space to be there so you see it. So we have a navigation. I'm going to change the color of the navigation tag to green. I'm going to save it and watch what happens. Sorry, background color. Sorry about that. Background color, sorry. Change the background color to green so that the background of the entire tag will be in green. So now you see that the background color for the navigation tag is green. So this is where the navigation tag starts, and this is where it ends. From this point to this point, that's the length of the navigation tag. But there is a space. Notice there's a space between the start of the tag and the browser screen. There's a space that there's a space there. But if I margin, so I can say I want to remove margin is the space outside of content. While padding is the space inside of content. So I want to say margin should be 0 pixels, and I'll save it. I won't explain what pixels are here because of time. So I've done that, and you notice that the space goes away. So I have said that I've told the browser that I don't want any space to be outside of this body. So I just want everything to lap with the browser screen. So that's what this is. If this is looking confusing, always remember that it's still the same syntax. The only difference is that I added space. So this is still the same syntax. This is the selector, this is the property I want to change, and this is the value of that property. So the same syntax, I just added space so that it will be easy for humans to read it. So the next thing I want to do is to add space to this, because this image here has a lot of space. So I'm going to add a height to it. I want this navigation tag to have a height, a certain height. So I will do that. Height is a property, so I'll just say height. And I want it to have a height of, let's say, 30 pixels. 30 pixels is not that high, but I want it to have a height of 30 pixels. So it will be 30 pixels high. Okay, that's really small. So it's going to have a height of 30 pixels. So it has just increased the height by 30 pixels. But what I want it to do in addition would be to have, let me increase it to 50 pixels. So it to be significant enough. So now there is a height here, and the height has been specified as 50 pixels. So the next thing I want to do is to create a space inside of this navigation tag. Remember that there is space outside and there's space inside. The space inside of this navigation tag would be, I want to make this profile picture move from the right. I want it just to be, there should be a space on top, there should be a space underneath, there should be a space on the side. That space is called a padding. Like you're trying to pad something inside. Maybe you want to put something breakable inside a box, you pad the box. So you're pushing things to the center. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to create a padding. Padding adds up. So padding and another dimensions add up. So if I have a height of 50 pixels and I have a padding of 20 pixels, it will add up. You will see that it will increase. So I have a padding of height of 50 pixels and a padding of 20 pixels. Let's see what happens. Save, Control S. So it adds up. You notice that the height added up has increased, and there's a space now between these elements, profile.me, and the browser screen, and there's a space on top. The space around them, around this entire element, is 20. It's 20 pixels, 20 pixels wide, 20 pixels wide. That's how wide it is. So the next thing I want to do is on this navigation would be to display it as flex. So what this does is that it changes the display format for this document. It changes the display format for this document. So to allow me, instead of using the float property, to allow me to specify that this element, I want this element to move from this point on to this point here. So we're going to get back to that soon. Let's get to the other elements here. So the next thing I want to style would be this div here that I gave a class of image. This div I gave a class of image. So to call that, I would use a dot notation. So I would have a dot image. That's because if I just type in image like that, the browser will think image is a tag, which image is not a valid tag, so it will not work. So I have to specify, add a dot in front of the image to tell it that the element I am trying to grab has a class of image. So what am I doing? I want to set the background. I want to add a background image to that tag. So the background image, I will have to get it from somewhere. So I'll use the background image URL and I'll do this. Then I'll use image. The image that you are using has to be in the same folder that your web document is. If it's not in the same folder, then you have to find that image. So if the image is in a different folder, starting from the folder where your web document is, you would have to keep on adding slash. So if this image, for instance, now this aurora.jpg, this JPG file, is inside a folder, let me create a new folder and call it img. And I move this inside of this folder. I would have to specify the full path or the location I want that folder to be. So I will do something like, // I'll do something like you should enter img folder and // you should look for aurora .jpg. So inside of the image folder, there is a file called aurora.jpg. That's what it's going to do here. So you have to find the path. The path is how many folders you need to enter to get a particular file. You have to define the full path to that file, wherever that file is. If that file is not on the same folder or the same level as your web document. So doing this or adding this as a background image, I would add a height. Let me give it a height of 40 pixels and a width of 40 pixels and save. Watch what happens. This box appears. This box is 40 pixels by 40 pixels wide, but this box contains the image. But you can't see the image because the image is stretched beyond the size of the box.
Can you hear Desmond? We can't see your we can't see your web page. We can only see your VS Code.
Oh. Hold on, let me see. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm assuming that maybe you didn't see other things that I was doing, so I'm just going to run through them quickly. So this is that div we just styled with a 40 pixels by 40 pixels dimension, height and width. So height is 40 pixels and width is 40 pixels, and we specify that the background should be an image. The image name is aurora.jpg, but the image is not showing here because in the background the image has stretched beyond the size of this box. So to fix that, we'll go back here. Can you see my VS Code? Please, if you can't see my screen, anytime you can't see my screen, don't just drop a message. You can unmute your mic and say something because I can't, when I'm sharing my screen, I can't really see messages as they come in unless I have to check. So can you see my VS Code now?
Yes, I can see your VS Code. Is everyone following?
Yes, I'm following.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So we have a height of 40 pixels and a width of 40 pixels, and we specify that this is the image that you should use for the background, but the image is bigger than 40 pixels by 40 pixels. The image is really large. So to fix that, I would have to specify that, first of all, I want the background. Let me not use background. So I want the background image. I want the background size to be cover. So what this does, cover the size of this. So you notice that the image now shows up here, but let me increase the size. I think that's too small, too tiny. Let me make it 150, or let me make it 200 first. We'll correct that later. Make it 200 by 200. So now you see that the background size now is covered. So it tries as much as possible to cover the size that you have given to it, but the image is still bigger than the size available. The image is still bigger than the size available. So what I am going to do would be, to set the background position so that it will be in the center, so that the image will be just at the center of that box. So now it's centralized. Now you can see the person's face. So we've gone through this, we've gotten to this step now. Now the next thing we want to style would be the main element. The main element, this main that wraps, that covers everything. Everything is inside of this main element. Everything that is not a navigation is inside of the main element. So I want to style this main element. I want it to display a certain way. So I'm going to start with main because it's an HTML tag, and I'm going to say display. First of all, I want it to be displaying as flexbox. So I'm going to say display flex. This will allow us. There are different ways to centralize things. So we say display flex. So what happens is that by default, when you set something to display flex, everything goes on a straight line like this. So watch what happens. So everything now is aligned on a straight line. So I'm going to change the display direction. So the flex direction is going to be column. So I want everything to be a column going down. So saving it, I refresh. Everything has gone back to normal. Then I come back here and I say, which other property do I want to change? I want to make justify content. I want to make everything to display at the center of the page. So doing that, it changes the position and allows things to be at the center. Also align items, center. So this now moves every single thing to the center of the page. I don't know why this image always does like this. It is like this when into this. So it moves everything down to the center of the page. You notice that everything now is at the center of the page. Yeah, it does that. So the next thing I would look at again will be, I need to change the background color for this main element so that you can see it. Let me put the background color as red first, because red is very obvious. So save it, come back here and I refresh. Oop, red is too bright. So this is the background color. It is red. This is how far the main element stretches. I want to change the width, the height, and yeah, I want to change the width, the height, and the margin for this main element. So I am going to start by changing the height first of all. I want the height to be 100, no, not necessarily 100%. I want it to be, let me give it 300 pixels. Let's see how far 300 pixels stretch. If we made it smaller. So I want to make it 600 pixels. Yep. Stretch it more. Even give it scroll. So I want it to be around 500 pixels. So yeah, we gave it a little scroll. So something like this. I want it to be something like this. We're going to correct that later, but let's just start with that. I have increased the size. Now I want to add margin. That is not a space inside of it, but a space outside of it. So I want to add space because in the image, when we look at the image, we see that there is a space around it. There's a space around it. So I want to create that space. To create that space, I'm going to use margin. So margin, I'm going to add margin. I can just, if I specify margin, this property margin behaves differently. I can specify margin to individual points of that element, or I could just specify margin generally. So it's going to affect the margin for the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. But I don't want to do that. So I just want to affect them. I just want it to touch the margin for the left, the right, and the top, not the bottom. So for me to do that, the easiest, or not the easiest way though, but the simple way I can do this for you who is learning so that you get an understanding is margin. I'll start with margin top and I'll provide, let's say, 20 pixels of margin, and I'll go again, margin bottom, 20 pixels, margin I'm going to correct that. That's not supposed to be margin bottom. It's margin left because I don't want any bottom. So margin left, 20 pixels. Margin right, 20 pixels. Save. Watch what happens. It creates a space around it, but doesn't create any space underneath it. So see that as soon as I refresh, it added 20 pixels of margin space outside of that element around, but there's no space underneath it. So this still does not look anything like that image. We're getting there. So this is a lot. Writing three instructions just to style one particular thing. So the shortest way to do it is just to write margin, and you just specify 0, 0, 0, 0. What this does is this is top, this is right, this is bottom, and this is left. That's one way you can do it, and you can just specify. So for the top, I want the top to be, let's use a percentage. I want the top to be 10%. 10% of the entire page. That's the height you should use. 10% of the entire page. I want the right to be 20% of the entire page, and I want the bottom to be 0, while I want the left to be 20% of the entire page. So doing this, I would have to delete these other ones. And save. Now watch what happens. So it does exactly the same thing, but I used less effort because it's just one line. It saves me a lot of space. So this is just the easier way to do it. So let's just quickly get this. So now we need to round these corners. So we're going to round this corner here. We're going to round this corner here. We're going to make this image a circle. To do that, we're going to add a property called border radius. And border radius simply means the edge, corner, that pointy corner. I'm going to remove some pixels from it. So border radius, I'm going to have a border radius of 10 pixels. I'm going to remove 10 pixels from the edge. So you notice I'm going to remove 10 pixels from it. So now you see that this is now rounded. It's no longer looking like that. It's now rounded, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to specify. Okay, yeah. So border radius of 10px. So this border radius, the same thing applies for these two. You can specify that the border radius should be applied to only some areas and not the others. So I'm just going to replicate this. So it goes in a clockwise direction, the way the hands of the clock go, from the top to the right, to the bottom, and to the left. So the top, I want the top and the top right, apart from the two bottom corners. So the top, that's I want the left hand side, the right hand side, then the left hand side and right hand side. So I'm just going to do border radius 10px. I'm going to do 0, 10px 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to apply. So I want it to be here. I want it to be here. I don't want it to be here, and I don't want it to be here. Top and bottom 10px. How many px should I provide? Okay. So the next element that we want to style, okay, I need to take this other part off. Just make it shorter. So the next element that we want to style will be, I'm going to fix that shortly. I just want to save time. Next element we're going to style will be the H1 and the horizontal row. So the horizontal row isn't showing up here. It's not showing up here. It's just a tiny dot here. To fix that, we're going to add a width to the horizontal row, and we're going to give the width 30% of the entire screen width. So 30% of the full screen width is what we are going to use for the horizontal row. If we refresh, you notice now that the horizontal row is present. And we can give the horizontal row a color. Let's give it a gray color. So let's give it something like ED. No, let's give it, yeah. This is a color code. This is a hex color code. So we can give it something like ED. So I think that's somewhat white. Yeah. Okay. So the horizontal row, we've provided a width of 30 pixels of 30% and a color of ED. And the next thing we're going to look at will be this text. I want this particular text to be like it is here in the image, where it is inside of a square, something like a square. It's just squared up. And we're going to do that by wrapping it inside of a div. So we didn't provide a div here, but we're going to do it now. To provide a div, we're going to wrap this entire text inside of a div. A div is a wrapper. So you can wrap content inside of it. That's, you place content inside of it like it's a container. So you can apply styling to that container, and it will only affect things that are inside of that div. So now I'm going to give this div a class of paragraph. I'm just going to call it par, so I can easily access it. So I'm just going to say dot par, and I'll give dot par a width of 30%. So it's going to take 30% of the parent container. It's now having a width of 30%. So 30%, that's the reason why you have this. Now this Aurora that is here, it doesn't look anything like the one that is here. It doesn't look anything like the one that is here. So to fix that, we would have to change the font type. So the font type that's being used here, I think is Inkscape or something like that. Inkscape also. So we would specify that by stating, calling the selector H1, and we say font family. I think ink free. Let's try it if it works. Oh, yep, it does work. So ink free is the font family or the font type that we're going to be using. So now we have to make this image rounded. So to fix that, the image tag, we'll have to go back to the image tag and we'll specify the same border radius that we used initially. So we have border radius. We can specify we want the border radius to be 50. Radius makes a square a circle because it has taken 50% off each side. So once something does not have edges, that's how you can use CSS to create shapes. Now we have a border radius of 50%. Now you can see it looks like a circle. So let me just correct this border radius stuff here. Just take it back to 10px. Leave it at that first. Then the next thing we need to do is that image. You notice that the image has a blue line around it. This blue around it. Yeah, we're going to border. We're going to specify this border. It pixels thick. It should be a solid line, and the color should be blue. Would correct the color very soon. The color should be blue. So when we do that, we refresh, and now we have a border 1px thick or 5px thick, a solid line. So it's not a dashed line. We could have specified that we don't want it solid. We want it dashed here, and you see that it would come out as a dashed line. We don't want that. So we want something solid, solid line. And if I sorry, next thing we'll look at now after refreshing is to change this background back to the gray color it's supposed to be, provided any realistic padding to this main element. So let's look at the main element and provide padding, some padding. So we have padding, and we provide padding of let's say pixels. Save it. 30 pixels. I think 30 pixels be okay. Save it. Then we change the color from red to something like that. ED. We have ED. This is color code for something almost close to white, but not white. Yeah. So here we have it. So it's now somewhat starting to look like the page we are looking at or we are hoping to reach. So let me correct something also. We need to correct something. We need to reduce the size here and the size here. So how did we apply that size? We applied it using percentage. That was about 20%, 20%. So margin, main margin, 20%. Let's reduce this to 3%. And let's take this to 15%. And take this to 15% and save. Okay, now it's a lot better. So it has reduced this one drastically, and it has reduced this also. So it's now starting to look somewhat like what we are aiming to achieve. So now let's get back to this guy on top and correct it. So we have the navigation. So we're going to add some extra to the navigation, extra properties to the navigation. So what are we adding? We're changing the color to blue. So let's change the color to blue. We'll get the right color very soon. So change the color to blue. Save. Then we are going to make the A tag. The A tag we initially wrote out. We're going to style that A tag. We're going to remove the underline from that A tag using text decoration, because that's a decoration. So we are going to remove the decoration using text decoration. I'm going to say we don't want any text decoration, none. So saving it like that, if you refresh, it takes away that underline. And we are going to change the color to white. So changing the color to white, or let's make it ED. since ed is already there. So watch what happens here. Changes that color to white. I also want to add padding to it. So I want to add padding. Remember, it goes in the clockwise direction. So I want to add padding to the top and bottom. Then I want to add padding to the left and right. So I want to add padding of 10 pixels to the top and bottom and 20 pixels to the left and right. Let's see what happens then. So it adds the padding, but we can't see it. So let us give it a background color so you can see the padding. So I'm going to give it a background color of gray. Let's try of gray. Save. We'll correct that later. Sorry. Gray. Now you can see that it has this padding and it's the background color of gray here. So to make it rounded, we'll have a border radius. A border radius of 10, let's say 5 pixels. So we're going to remove 5 pixels from the edge. I'm going to. I hope you guys are still following.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. So let me continue. So now we notice that majorly what we've been doing, we've just been adding properties and properties and properties. You can style any website to your taste. So adding this property, we're going to just fix it to make it centralized here. Border radius 5 pixels. What else do we need to add? Padding. So let's see. Let me remove this. Let's see whether that fixes it in time. Something is wrong. Why is this element behaving like this? I know why. So we have what they call comments. In any programming language. I think most programming languages I'm aware of have comments. So what a comment is a piece of code that you would write, but the computer will not process. So humans can read it, they can see it, but the computer will not process it. So this is how you write a comment in CSS. Use the / the star, and another star and the / to close it. So anything inside of here would not be processed by the computer. So I can write something like this is a comment, and the only person who is going to read it will be a fellow human like me, because the computer is never going to process it. Once it sees this sign, or it's going to ignore it and going to jump to the next line and continue processing other things. So let me save this. What I have done is I've removed that property of display flex. So doing that has corrected the behavior of this say hi, because this say hi wasn't in the center before. It was behaving somehow. Sometimes CSS is like that. There are some images that you will find online that will try to describe how difficult it is to write CSS. But CSS is really easy if you understand it and you understand how it works. You just always have to find your way around it. So say hi. Now we need to move this say hi from this point to this point here. There are different ways you can do that. You can do that using a margin. You can change the position to relative, and you can maybe change the position from, hope that will work. Let's see, right. You can say you want right to be 10 pixels. You want it to move to the right by 10 pixels. Have a margin from the right by 10 pixels. Where's right? Okay, it's relative to that. See, left. So it's relative to this, it's not moving beyond that. Set it to absolute. I put that left. Back to right. So now it has moved all the way down to the right hand side, and it has a margin of 10px. That's basically what that does. Without writing this, you can also do this by specifying float, but many persons don't use float anymore. You can ask it to float to the right. What you are telling it to do is just carry yourself and move to the right. He raised his hand. Osazua, do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. My image is not showing. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Did you specify the exact path for the image?
Yes.
The image is in the same folder. Did you specify the file extension for the image?
Yes. Yes.
I think I forgot to mention that. You did? Can you send? You still have Studihub's phone number, right? Can you send a screenshot of your screen and the code you wrote to Studihub phone number quickly?
Okay, I'll send it now.
So let me proceed. So using the float right, it's going to do the same thing, but this time around, it's just going to float it right. It's going to hit the edge. So, yep, float right does that. So the difference between float right and the other is that float right moves the elements to the right hand side, while the absolute changes the position and the behavior of that element. So absolute would remove it completely from the page and throw it about anywhere on the screen as you want using X, Y, X and Y coordinates. So you want it to be on the left by how many pixels, right by how many pixels, and so on, just like that. So now we have it on the right here. Now, what we need to also fix is this profile.me. Profile.me doesn't look anything like this. So the font here is different and the size here is different. So let us correct that. So the profile.me is in a span tag. So just going to specify the tag span, and I'm going to do something like profile. No, what am I doing? I'm going to add a property called color, obviously, and change the color to white and save it. If I refresh, the color turns into white. I'm going to change the font size. Change the font size to let's see. Change the font size to 40px. Let's see whether 40px is big or too big. It's too big. Too big. So let me change it to 30px. Save and refresh. Yep, that's looking like something that can work. Now we have change. Also have to change the font family. That's the type of fonts. And we're going to specify sans serif. Let's see if sans serif works. Yeah. So sans serif might not be the font that we use in this image here. But if we want to get fonts, we could go to a place like Google Fonts and import fonts using CSS or using a link directly. But I would not do that now. You can visit a place like fonts.google.com and you have access to a whole lot of free fonts. So I think I use that. So have you sent the image, Sazua?
Yes, I've sent the image.
Okay. I think they'll forward it to me. Okay. Okay, you did not add. I noticed that you didn't. First of all, you didn't close your tag. I wish I could show it here. How can I show it here? I can't show it here. Okay, you didn't close your tag. So let me just quickly show you here.
Okay.
If you notice my image, At the end of every property and value, I end it with a semicolon.
Yes.
And the image name is Aurora, and I'm adding the file extension for that image. There are different kinds of images. You have to tell the computer which of the Aurora are you looking for. Is it .jpg? Is it an MP3 file? So you have to specify the file extension. So is it aurora.jpg? Is it aurora.mp3? Is it aurora.mp4? So if you don't have a specific file extension, it won't work. You have to specify the exact file. So back to try that, it will work. So back to our font. We now have profile.me here, profile.me. Then I'm not going to import any font, so I'm just going to play around with the fonts available in the browser. So every browser and every computer has a set of default fonts that come with them that you can easily access. They might not be the best, but you can manage them. So let's see another font that we can use. So let's see Montserrat available. Montserrat. Nope. Let's see Helvetica. Arial Helvetica. Helvetica is available. Helvetica. It's going to provide Arial first. Let's save it. Yep, it's provided Arial. It's still provided Arial and sans serif. Yep. So those fonts are now available. So the font available on my browser is sans serif. So I'm just going to work sans serif. So now it's called Ubuntu. This particular font, I think you can find it here. You can find it on, why did I even close that tab? Fonts.google.com. You can find it here. It's font called Ubuntu. Yes, look at it here. So this is the font. It's called Ubuntu. There are different kinds of font. There's condensed, there's Ubuntu Mono, there's Ubuntu. So you can download the fonts and use it in your website or your web application. But for now, we're just going to use the default font that's available on the browser. This one, fortunately for us, was available. So we're going to correct the color here and correct the color here, and I think we are done. So already 17 minutes. We've exceeded the time by 17 minutes. Sorry for that. So let's just correct the color. So I think the color here would be, let me see. I think I had this project somewhere. So let me check for that color. Yep. So this is the color. Control C. And yeah, Control V. So that's the color. That's the color code for that color. So anywhere I see blue, I'll replace it with that color. And I save. Watch what happens next. If I refresh. Now, although I need to fix this text here, the left-hand side. So let's fix that text. Paragraph. I'm going to fix the text because the text is inside of the p tag. Yeah, we know that the text is inside of the p tag. So I want to align this text in a different way. So I want to text align. I want it text is going to spread evenly. You know, in your Microsoft documents, you have left align. Sorry for that. I just realized that my network disconnected. Sorry. Let me quickly share my screen and round up. So this is it. We are already done with the design. The only thing we need to do now is just change the color for the say hi. So say hi, background color should be this, and a tag background color is this. So have something similar to this. Just need a little restructuring and that'll be all. So we spent a lot of time here. So I'll just stop here. We'll go back to our slides. So we are already done with our project. So have you been able to fix the issue? Is it still here? Okay. So in summary, we've been able to see that it's possible and it's easy for you to learn all this because from what I understand, if you stayed from beginning of this class to this point, you should understand how even though you might not know all the tags, but you understand how to write HTML. I understand how CSS works now from this practical session we just had. Knowledge. We created a course that is going to help you do that. Unfortunately, this class was ending longer than usual, so I'm just going to rush through. So we intend to guide you to become a web developer, not just teach you and let you go. So Studihub Digital Academy doesn't just train you and leave you. We have alumni community that we're going to put you into, that's going to mentor you and guide you. So you can join our 6-week long class where you get training on how to become a professional developer. You build a must hire portfolio, you begin applying for jobs, or you can start your own business. You would also have access to our bonus soft learn. You learn everything that you need to know about HTML, CSS. You'll also learn about Git version. If you go through it later on, you see that Git versioning was a part of it. You learn about Git versioning, how you can collaborate with people. You work on projects with your fellow classmates, and these projects will teach you the importance of collaboration using remote collaboration because people now work remotely. So you're going to work remotely and use remote tools such as Git versioning. And you're going to learn CSS Bootstrap. You're going to learn how to program for the web using JavaScript. So what are the benefits? You will become very confident to take up any challenge as a web developer. Any challenge that comes up in front of you, you will take it up because you have learned the important fundamentals of web development and you've worked on enough projects that give you that confidence. Work on projects that will build you a must-hire portfolio. What's a must? It's a portfolio that if you submit it to anybody, when they look at it, they'll be like, oh, this guy has worked on this before. Oh, wow, we need to have this guy because he has done this, he has done that. That's the projects these are the kind of projects that you'll be working on at the end of our training. We also have access to a bonus soft skill and business class to help you kickstart your career. So for persons who want to start a web development, a freelance project, we as an alumni to help you kickstart a career or start your freelancing business. So you also get mentorship, free job trainings, like I mentioned, and job opportunities, all available as a member of our alumni community. So our alumni community is a great community of persons with diversified skill sets and people who you can easily really network with. People who on a normal day you do not have the opportunity to see them, but you can be a part of their network now as an alumni. So how much is the entire program? Our program cost is 65,000 naira. Of the program, we are actually cutting down the price to 20,000 naira. So that is the price for the program, 20,000 naira for all the benefits, all the value that we're going to offer. The 6-week long program was the months of projects that we're going to be working on, the access to the alumni program, everything is just for one-time payment of 20,000 naira. And you need to understand how our classes are going to be held. 100% tutor-led and 100% virtual. 100% tutor-led means that the way we are interacting right now is going to be way better because that you would have to unmute your mic and you would have to talk. So we'll talk like we are in a physical classroom. You ask questions. I show you live. We're going to use different tools. We're going to have different recording. So we are having, or what we have for you today, with 50% discounts, 50%. It's going to I think my network has disconnected again. My network is erratic today. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to be giving 50% discount for all of you who have stayed to the end. And this 50% discount is only available for 5 days. So thank you very much. If you're interested in